I had a clear mission to accomplish, and that was the removal of the unsightly cross. Rummaging through a myriad of ideas, I came up with a couple of concoctions that might actually do the trick. My trusted makeup remover was one possible solution. It did get rid of multiple layers of waterproof mascara, so I didn't see why it wouldn't work. I proceeded to dig through my messy and sticky makeup bag in search for a scrap of cotton wool. Once found, I soaked it with a hefty amount of remover, the fumes from it wafting up into my nostrils and making my eyes water. With bated breath, I placed the cool little pad on my skin and began the process of elimination. Rubbing on it with a vengeance, the result was devastating. It didn't make a difference. The other option, which was bound to be foolproof, would certainly have been nail polish remover. That was the equivalent of paint thinner. I repeated the procedure arduously. The only thing it did was to leave an angry ruby red welt the size of a golf ball. I decided to hide it with concealer. No luck. At least the dizziness had vanished. I tidied up the bathroom, which by now reeked like some sort of meth lab. I made my way into the kitchen and prepared the tea, removing the plates and mugs from the beige kitchen cabinet and placing the chinaware on the formica table. I perched my bottom on the hard chair and eagerly waited for Claire to bring me something sweet.
You were in luck, Sophie. I got the last piece of poppy seed crumble. Pretty cool, huh?
Before she placed our treats on the table, she gave me one look and gasped.
For God's sake, what did you do to your face?
Embarrassed, I looked away for a brief moment.
Did something happen to you when you came back from the bus stop to pick up your sunglasses? Did you fall and bang your head somewhere?
I looked at Claire, surprised and confused. I did what?
Don't you remember? We were both waiting for the bus to take us downtown. You suddenly remembered you had left your sunglasses behind. Since the bus was going to take another few minutes, you decided to go back for them.
Astonished, I looked at her. Are you serious? When did that happen? Claire looked at her watch.
About half an hour ago.
I'm confused, Claire. The last thing I remember was waking up from what must only have been a nightmare. In it I had been tied down to a bed against my will. Sophie looked at me with perfectly shaped eyebrows she'd just recently plucked.
Sophie, I'm your best friend. We share a depressing little dorm room in this shissy orphanage, and we've always been there for each other. Even if it's hard, or if you think it sounds crazy, just let it out. If you can't tell your BFF about it, then who can you tell?
I looked at Claire with tears in my eyes and grabbed hold of her hand. You have to promise you won't tell anyone. Promise me.
Have I ever not kept my promises?
As a sign of oath, Claire picked up her phone and pressed it to her chest. Her phone was her lifeline. It was an extension of her. She never let it out of her sight. I began to recount the nightmare. I was tied to the bed, had IVs and tubes coming out from both arms. My right arm burned as if on fire. I couldn't move.
It doesn't make sense, Sophie. I know that once you had run off to get your glasses, I suddenly remembered that I too had left my charger in the room. So I sent you a text, but you didn't reply to it, so I called you, but it went straight to voicemail. I had no choice but to follow you. I must have taken 5 minutes max to get here.
See? I told you it was weird. The dream felt like I was under for hours. When I woke up, I was as sick as a dog. Tell me more about it. Sometimes dreams have hidden meanings. I nodded and looked at Claire, wide-eyed. For a dream, it was very realistic. I can remember every single detail, especially the physical pain. God, it hurt.
That's nothing new. I've had those before. I usually have them when I'm under stress.
Maybe she was right? I continued recounting the dream, but I could see from the way she was tilting and shaking her head, that she was finding it very difficult to believe me. It was cringeworthy. Describing the dream was taking its toll on me. On more than one occasion, I had to stop and pull myself together.
Wow! Sophie! That's incredible. And you're sure you dreamt all that in the 5 minutes you were up here?
Claire looked dumbfounded, as was I. It didn't make any sense. The timing didn't match up. Claire wanted to change the subject in order to put me off thinking about it and asked me how I felt. I told her that despite having woken up in a terrible shock and running to the toilet vomiting, I was surprisingly feeling really good. It's as if a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
When did you start feeling better?
I retraced my steps back to when I started to regain my strength and realized it was when I saw the cross for the first time. But I couldn't quite say that to Claire, especially when she couldn't see it.
Maybe you just needed to throw up.
Yes, Claire. Come to think of it, that must have been it. Once my stomach emptied itself out, I definitely felt much better.
Well, there you go then. You obviously ate something that didn't agree with you. Maybe it was really bad indigestion, or you ate something that was off.
I hesitated for a moment but realized Claire would never believe my version of events. Yes, that makes sense. What Claire didn't know, however, was that it was clearly the cross that had healed me. I was certain of that.
Very well. What you need now is something to take your mind off things. Let's get out of here.
I don't know, Claire.
Oh, come on. If you feel unwell, we can always come back.
Okay, you win. Let's go shopping.
Great. That's the Sophie I know. You freshen up, and I'll get my things together, and don't forget to put some powder on that blotchy forehead of yours.
I did as she suggested and covered the cross under a blanket of powder.